Hello everybody. My name's Brook Andrew. Sitting here in Melbourne on Wiradjuri country, and I'm with Professor Marcia Langton and the artist Xiaoping. And we'll be talking about the artwork of and collaborative work of Xiaoping with the artist Johnny Bullen in relation to the waterways of Northern Australia. And now this is an opportunity, it gives me great pleasure if Marcia and Xiaoping, you could introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm coming to you from Wurundjeri country in Naarm or Melbourne. I acknowledge the traditional owners, the Woiwurrung Wurundjeri and their elders past and present. And it's an absolute honour to be here with Brook and Xiaoping, and to talk with them about the collaboration between Xiaoping and the late Mr. Bullen, who passed away some years ago, but with whom the collaboration became such an important international work.
Yeah, hi, my name is Joe Xiaoping. I'm based in Melbourne as an artist. And in the past, I had did some collaborative work with my great friends, the later Johnny Bullen.
And so maybe we could start with an image of the waterways. How about we do that? And so give people a bit of a context. So here we share an image of the top of Australia and the kind of trade routes that happened between all the way from up in China down to Australia. And I'm wondering, Marcia and Xiaoping, if one of you would like to speak to these waterways.
Yeah, Marcia, you can talk about.
Yeah, so this trade route was very famous, probably for several hundred years before the British came to Australia. So there were traders throughout this archipelago region and also the coastal areas of Southeast Asia who travelled all around this region collecting tradable products such as trepang, which is the sea slug, highly prized as in a soup and as an aphrodisiac amongst Chinese people. Also pearl shell and various other seafoods, the bird's nest from Sulawesi and parts of Indonesia, the northern part of the island of Borneo. It's a swallow's nest, which is found only in an ancient cave, and the local Indigenous people harvest it. And that was also traded. So these trade routes, as you can see, come from one of the, on your map, it says just one trade port, but there were a number of trading ports, at least 14 during the British colonisation of that area. And the traders came down through, as your map says, along the Philippines coast. They didn't always call into Manila, down through the archipelago to Sulawesi, to the Kingdom of Goa, where the Makasar people ruled for for many hundreds of years. And then their trading boats came on the trade winds to Arnhem Land and also down to the coast of Western Australia. Now, our project concerns Northeast Arnhem Land and the inherited oral history that Mr. Bullen shared with Xiaoping. There were other traders before these largely Muslim traders from Sulawesi that we'll talk about today, Before them, there were Indian traders. And there are also other trading groups like the Bugis, for instance, and others from the archipelago. So we know about the Indian traders, both from historical records and also because in the trade language of this area are many Hindu words, and they've been incorporated into the many languages of Northern Australia, along with Muslim words and words from the languages used by the traders. So, for instance, in Arnhem Land, the word for stranger is Ballanda, which is a Yolŋuization of Hollander. And the word for alcohol is Gunhanha, which is a Yolŋuization of aniseed, the Dutch liqueur. The word for rice is baraji, which is a Yolŋuization of an Arabic word, barasi, and so on.
And Marcia, I'm just wondering, before we jump into some really amazing images that you have in the catalogue, which is the collaboration between Xiaoping and the late Bullen, which Xiaoping will talk about in a minute. There's also a very strong visual relationship in design between.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, maybe I'll stop this PowerPoint and you could share the document that you have.
And it might be best if Xiaoping talks about that, but this is a photograph of Macassans standing on a beach in Arnhem Land, and you can see the compound with the fencing with smoke coming out. That is where they dried and smoked the trepang to prepare it for taking it and trading it back to the Chinese ports. And then in front of the compound, you can see Aboriginal encampments. So Aboriginal people and Macassan people were working together on this enterprise.
And they were also intermarrying as well. That's right.
Yes, they were. And there are several Arnhem Landers buried in the cemeteries in the Kingdom of Goa, where the Macassans have traditionally lived. And we collected some maps of the region to show that, these areas were well known. So, this is quite an old map, for instance, obviously a colonial map, but nevertheless, you can see how the coastal areas were very well documented. And this is in the time when Australia was called Nova Hollandia or New Holland. So, very much a Dutch view of the world. So all of the imperial powers came into this region and secured various resources for themselves and colonized regions. So that's why there were so many Chinese ports. Each Chinese port was controlled by a European imperial power. Then we decided we ought to look at the Chinese maps. So this is from the Qing Dynasty. Do you want to say anything about this, Xiaoping?
No, you talk very well. You just keep it going. Yeah, no, you keep going. No, So some maps is very hard to see now. You can see these all Chinese characters on there on this map. To showing all the names of area and some little bit more description of the area and the short story on this map. So this is a very, very interesting map. So
yeah, but the point of this map that I think is very important to say is that whereas you have the Europeans who regarded themselves as the center of the world, here, this is a map made by Chinese people which shows China as the center of the world. And in this map, it depicts America and other Western countries as, quote, vague and inconsequential islands along the border of the main landmass. So, you know, people didn't really understand, people in Australia didn't really understand that actually Aboriginal people were involved in a trade route with the superpower of the day, China, and not with the Europeans for hundreds of years before the British got here. So here's another map. This is a Chinese map also. And in this one, it's a 19th century manuscript map of the very port that you showed, Brook. And my pronunciation will be terrible. Xiaoping, correct me if I'm wrong. Xiamen?
Yeah, Xiamen.
Xiamen. And the surrounding regions. The map includes the islands and settlements on Xiamen and Jinmen.
Qingmen, yeah.
As well as the coastal city of Guangzhou.
Yeah.
It shows all the principal fortifications, settlements, anchorages, and sea routes. So these are the trade ports where all of the goods from basically the rest of the world entered China.
Could you just move that map down a bit, Marcia, please, so we could see it? So are you saying that this bit here, where is Australia on that map, do you think?
It's not on there. This is a map of the Chinese coast.
Okay,
and it's
fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if now we have time that maybe, oh, look, this is a great map. What is
yeah, this is a beautiful map. So this is a map. Okay, let me just see if I can find some text. Okay, this is a map of the world, Tianxia, from Book 5. This atlas is thought to have been produced in the Qing Dynasty. The reverse side of the maps, there's two maps, has large, highly stylized and beautiful Chinese calligraphy. The maps inside this Korean book are each 29 centimetres by 33.5 centimetres and unfold to form one long continuous page. So this is from the collection of Dr. Hendon M. Harris. And we put them in because they are so beautiful, highly contentious, of course. So it was printed from wood blocks on mulberry bark paper and is in a Korean book. It's based on which cities appear on the other maps in this text. It is thought that it was produced in the late 18th century. So in any case, the Chinese and the Koreans were making atlases of the world as they knew it and representing them in their own particular styles. But I want to make the observation here, as Pin Sun Chang, the Chinese merchants were already trading in all corners of maritime Southeast Asia, an area they traditionally called the South Seas. They sailed with the monsoon winds on the two needle routes to the South Seas, from port to port, seeking native tropical products for consumption at home, and visited places throughout the region wherever business opportunities were available. These prosperous port cities included Malacca, Aceh, Palembang, Banten, and Ambon. And then later in our catalogue, we have the names of all the Aboriginal ports where the Makasar fleets came to as well.
So kind of really reflecting on this exciting, these maps. I mean, it's a very different world today, isn't it, in regards to cultural politics in the world and Australia, and how Australia is seen as a post-British colony, where in actual fact before it was very much part of a thriving trading system. And I'm wondering if this is an opportunity now, Xiaoping, to maybe you could talk about the relationship, or how you met the late, Johnny Bullen.
Yeah, okay. Well, this many years ago. Well, I arrived in Australia, in the later 80s, 1980s, and then straight away from Melbourne, I always traveled to Isle Blak, in the north of Australia.
Let's look at this for a while. Yeah, that's great, Marcia.
Okay. Yeah. So this is you see from the picture, you can see myself and also late Johnny Blum and the late Laurie as well. So we collected the bark, then we cooked it, just make it flat and dry, and then we painted on this bark. So this is the very traditional bark paintings, how to produce the bark paintings by Aboriginal artists. So yeah, from this photos you can see that. Yeah, you can see that. And that in the picture there's Johnny Blum. We met for a long time ago. For many years, we become very close friends at that time. Then as artists, we do sharing lots cultures together, and I learned quite a lot about the original culture. And sometimes when I'm doing the painting, for instance, once Laurie and Johnny and bring the kids, they come into my studio in Melbourne, and when they watched me to paint, well, I painted on the rice paper most of the time with with acrylic or wash the kind of color. But also I like to paint on the floor as that like Johnny did. They always sit on the ground to paint. So they watched me to paint on the rice paper, and they talked about, I just want to know, and how do I paint, or what when I paint, what would I think how. And then later they were just showing them and tell them, sharing all the cultures. Then later Johnny was very interested, say, okay, to do the painting, bark painting, it's take a long time. You don't get a cross etching, take hours and hours to finish a painting. And look at the me to paint the, so relaxed and the freedom. And then he wants to try to paint on the bark painting. Because the painting is very large on the ground, so he made, just like me, and stand on the painting and just paint with all the, paint and, with the Chinese brushes. So this is only part of us, relationship, as through the arts. But later, because for this project, we all know Johnny in this story, in this trading, Makasar's Aboriginal tradings. So that we.
So sorry, jumping to interrupt. You just cut out for a minute. Could you maybe repeat what you said about the relationship, or what Johnny knew about the Makasar trading?
Makasar trading, yeah. We all know Johnny has been, had been painted some paintings and also doing some ceremonies related to this story about the, Makasar's, the trading between the Makasars and the Aborigines, and then collected and cooked them, then sell to Chinese people, So then we invited Johnny coming to Melbourne, and we worked together to produce some artworks. One of the artwork, like this one you can see now, is very interesting to me. It's very, very important. Then people you can see from our right side, right, and you can see is as Johnny did the painting, and in the painting you can see the triangles, clydes, thornstones, they all represent the images represent the meaning, and also fish, turtle, the fish, and some trepan. If you can see the very skinny, like a, you can see it.
So it's a slug, isn't it? It's a sea slug.
Yeah, this one, sea cucumber. Yeah, so there's, and also these ones as well. Yeah, these ones, and also the fish, and the small little, this come. when he finished it and he left over with this old blanket, then let me to finish it. When we just say finish it in the 2 bit, 2 parts, to me is that's quite just say uncompleted. It's not the finished work, which means just like 2 artists' paintings joined together, did not make it. To me, it did not make sense really. Did not make really the connection between these 2 paintings really. So there's one day I was in the studio. I got very tired and had a little bit of dream. Just fell to the sleep and had a little bit of dream. And then suddenly the images appears in my mind with Johnny's painting and the fish, and start to move or jumped from his painting to my painting and to the sea. And when I woke up, and I thought that is what I should do, or should paint, or should finish up. So then I moved painted this all the fish from his painting to my painting. Right, that is, you can see from all the fish coming out, and from this kind of pattern fish, cut off, the kind of pattern fish from that, and into like a real fish, like these ones, right? And well, interesting enough, that later, I have, our friends, Joe Gumbala. So Marcia, and we all know him. And he came to my studio and saw this painting. And then he just say, this is exactly or perfect to the painting to explain what is the Dreamtime story about. So we say from the culture, from the arts to the life, and the life back to the arts, just go to we're talking about the Dreamtime story, that's in English words as Dreamtime story. So we're not just talking about it in the past tense, we're talking about this today and the future. So all the culture is in life. That is about it. So that is the painting. And when we finish it, of course, both of us are so happy for this painting. We just give so meaningful for that. Yeah.
Thank you, Xiaoping. Our time is nearly up, but I'm just wondering if there's anything very quickly that you both would like to say about the kind of, really the relationship again between China and all those trade routes down to Yolŋu and Johnny Bullen.
Well, there was a big cultural interchange as well. And it obviously went on for a very, very long time. And so Aboriginal people adopted all sorts of cultural practices and material culture from the Makasar visitors and I think previous visitors who were different people from the Makasars. And you can see that Makasars, for some time, benefited economically from what were by and large not bad relationships. They were not terrible relationships like the British relationships were. Not all of them were great, but they, it was a mercantile relationship, let me put it that way. Of course, there were problems, and it wasn't always perfect, but it was a reasonable mercantile relationship, such as mercantile peoples had anywhere in the world. There were some conflicts, but if I could, for instance, find if you could stop sharing for a minute, Brook, I'll find the Aboriginal ports. Just give me a minute. Okay, well, let me just say, for example, about these paintings of Makasar prow. So Aboriginal people knew when the Makasars were turning up because of the, the trade winds are the northwestern monsoonal winds that brought the prow fleets, or the fleets of vessels called prow, to Australia. They had particular ceremonies for welcoming the fleets. The fleets had their own. Each fleet had its own flag. Aboriginal partnerships in the trade were depicted by these flags. And so people welcomed the prow fleets, and they painted them, as you can see, on rock art and in their bark paintings. Aboriginal people also had their own craft, like canoes, double rigger canoes, woven sails and such. And you can see how these look like pipes from Asia, and they're made with the pipe part of is made from metal. So this is an interesting, intercultural exchange. I think it's recorded that Aboriginal people did get opium from some of the traders, but mostly they smoked tobacco in these pipes, and still do today. And these are their traditional crab pipes. And you can see in these paintings all the emblems. This is a painting of a Makasar prow. These are paintings of Makassans and activities with Makassans and their prow. So everywhere in the rock art, in the bark paintings, and in various kinds of designs, you see evidence of this very long cultural exchange. These are the flags that are still today flown at funerals, weaving sails. Now, this sculpture tradition extends, for instance, to depicting Makasar captains. You can see the canoe with the flags, and also a basket with the calico woven into it. The calico was received from the Makasar traders. And here's the list of Aboriginal ports that I wanted to show you. So say, for instance, the Warramiri people had a port called Dolce Manunu. And there is, for each group, a port like this. So the Yolŋu clan had a port called, sorry, the Yolŋu people had a port called Gurumurujigi. And the Gumatj people had a port called Gumburingajiki, and so on. So that's the list of ports.
This is really fantastic. I'm loving this, but unfortunately we're out of time. But,
and also, just let me say also, you can see the flags in the other column.
Ah, yes.
Right.
Of course, all of the different colours.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you both so much for really, enriching this part of the world that many people from around the rest of the world really probably don't know about. So Professor Marcia Langton and Xiaoping, thank you so much, Mandangu, for your time. It's really exciting to speak about these histories and works.
Thank you.
Thank you.